Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Lab by Ecomsi. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomsi. Today, we bring you a very special friend. His name is Dr. Pradeep Kumar. He's a scientist, author, and the CEO of Donsfield, which is actually a global business and trade development firm that specializes in helping businesses expand and reach their full potential. So I've been spending a lot of time lately with Pradeep here in London, and I love his background, his experience in the commerce space, and I know he has ton of experience when it comes to risk mitigation, which is actually going to be today's episode topic, and we're going to be diving in some of the key points around that, right? So let me introduce you, Pradeep. Thank you very much for being here. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm always excited to spend time with you. Winnie, I
Yeah,
also call you. Winnie, my
yeah.
fellow sister.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I mean, to be honest, the last couple of months we've been spending so much time together at different events,
In a good way,
network.
guys. In a good way.
Yeah, in the good way, 100%. But yeah, I just love your journey so far. How you basically been changing industries in the last couple of years, and your great impact in all of them. So, if you can briefly just quickly introduce yourself, just tell our audience who you are, your background, and how you landed in the Amazon world. Yeah.
Yeah, my background's a bit crazy. I dropped out of high school to concentrate on lifting weights. Got in a bit of trouble when I was young, as you do. Then at 21, decided to go back to school. Then I just worked. I tell people the life is a sales game, a numbers game, and a risk game. So I just
Yeah.
made phone calls, and in 4 years from a dropout, I managed to get to Oxford. And Oxford, I done science. I looked at aging biology, discovered some drugs, and then I
Awesome.
said, you know what? If this is life, I'm going to take it to a step further. Went to Harvard, went to Sorbonne in France, went to the Hebrew in Israel, and I was like, wow, life is about risk, numbers, and
Yeah.
sales. And then I thought, you know what can I do better and bigger? And I discovered drugs, and I loved business because I was always a hustler from a young age.
That's
And
awesome.
then I became VP for global biotech. I grew that company very well, 80% in sales in the first year. And then I done a lot of M&A deals and mergers. I still kept my R&D passion in academia. So I done that. Then I got stuck in the pandemic. And long story cut short, those who heard me speak, I had a very interesting introduction to e-commerce. Was stuck in the pandemic in China. I got to know factory owners, and I said, "Hey, let me see your numbers." And numbers were crazy. And within 8 days, I took that risk element and I started my own company. So it's been a fascinating journey. And what I do very well is I go to new industries or reinvent myself, um, following my passion in the data, and I look at how a niche or how an industry thinks, where the holes are, and where to mitigate risk and scale quickly. I'm a big believer in going hard and fast. And as you know, Vinny, I tell people life is short.
Yeah.
So you've got to find the opportunities, got to mitigate those risks and grow quickly and scale, then leverage and scale again. So I advise a lot of CEOs and business on those things. I advise a lot of private families and family offices on risk investment and where
Great.
to mitigate risk. And now I'm doing that in e-commerce. I'm loving building my own business and brand. We're looking at also advising on some acquisitions as well. So that's where I am, and hopefully today we're going to talk about some risk on the
That's
Amazon
awesome.
e-commerce side.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your journey. I mean, yeah, I love everything you achieved so far, and to be honest, I'm very proud of you. I always tell you that, and yes, hundred
Thanks, man.
percent.
This is when you give me a big hug on screen.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, and I love also the fact that you keep mentioning the risk, taking risk. All business that we do in life is all about taking risk, and also at the same time understanding the mitigation we need to do to also find the opportunity in that risk that we bring to our lives. So I think that's why I think today's topic is such an important thing to bring to Amazon sellers, because I think a lot of people, when they think about starting a business on Amazon, they just focus on the fancy numbers, the profit, I'm gonna sell my product, all that. But realistically, they don't have a plan to mitigate risk, which 100% There's gonna be risks involved, which we're gonna be touching today, and it will be awesome to get your insights about what are the things Amazon sellers can do to avoid this from basically ruining their Amazon business journey. Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to have students, I used to have staff members. I had 600 staff globally. I used to have friends in hard circumstances, in good circumstances. And you see that risk is everywhere, right? Not in just business. You cross the road is a risk, right?
Yeah.
How do you make those strategic choices? How do you kind of adjust your fears? Fear is good, adrenaline is good, but how do you make those strategic choices and mitigate the risk? And I modeled this on my Amazon journey, and I think there's five factors, right? I think it comes down to five things. Those five things are at the start. How do you mitigate the risk? How do you mitigate cash flow? People don't talk about cash flow enough.
Very
But,
important.
business is a cash flow business, any business, but Amazon particularly. How do you mitigate the fight? I call it the fight, the middle phase where you defend your business against competition. How do you mitigate risk on the fourth phase with the expand? How do expansion is very important. And the fifth phase is exit. Now I haven't exited Amazon business, e-commerce business, but I've negotiated 60 deals, M&A deals. I've exited business in big pharma areas, so I can advise on that as well. And what I do that's my bread and butter. So, I like to break this down to five things and keep it short and concise and try to help people here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think, to be honest, risk mitigation in the Amazon space, especially during the launch phase. I mean, that's such an important phase of any business, specifically Amazon, because if you don't take in consideration the risk and then the thing you're going to be touching next, which is cash flow, we all know in Amazon, if you don't have cash flow, you're dead. I mean, if you don't have the cash flow to keep funding your inventory, your advertising, your strategies, your basically business strategy, you're going to die. That's the reality. If people have more funding than you, there's no way you can survive that. So it will be interesting to hear basically your advice on these areas and see what some of the tips you can give us so people can feel more confident when jumping into this journey. Yeah.
Yeah. When I talk about a start, I obviously there'll be people watching, newbies watching who want to start their own brand and business. Go for it, guys. And also, I meant start if you're already an experienced person. Who am I compared to you guys? I'm just a sheep, yeah. And you
Hmm.
guys are the wolf. But I think also launching new brands and products will also have risk. And what I
Yeah.
talk to people about is obviously I'm a scientist from research. You do your numbers on helium-10, jungle scout,
Yeah.
you do your numbers financially stuff. But I believe the greatest risk mitigation is about who you know. If you know the
Mm.
right people and you know the right game, you know how to mitigate that risk. And I'll tell you why. I know that when I first started toys or face masks, everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
Thing. But I knew my numbers because I knew direct factory links and
Huge. Huge.
direct logistics for forwarders. So I tell people the greatest start you can have no is obviously do your numbers research. We already know get the right categories, but your keyword compared to direct relationship is more important. I call it the keyword direct relationship ratio. If you find the right
Mm.
keyword, that's fine, but the ratio has to be as much or more in terms of direct relationship with factories and logistics, because those will get your numbers down even more, right? Are you
Yeah.
talking to a trade company with a one-man army on Alibaba
Yeah.
in Hong Kong, or are you talking to a direct relationship using WeChat, right? Which every Chinese person has, particularly factory owners who probably don't know speak English, and
That's
they're
right.
in the middle of nowhere. Are you talking to the right people? Are you in the right areas? Shenzhen does electronics, right? Shanghai area might do something else. The northern is more fabrics. So you need to be in the right area with the right factory and have direct relationships. If that means you finding someone at Upwork, do it. If that means you go to your local Chinatown and get someone to WeChat in Chinese, you do it, right? But you trying
Yeah.
to find direct relationship that will mitigate risk. You build those networks, mitigate risk.
That's
Obviously,
right.
the risk to mitigate from start is actually if you have trade assurance in Alibaba.
Hmm.
But if you do the right direct keyword research as well, and you have a good ROI, we look at ROIs between 120 to 150%, right?
Hmm.
Because that will help you cut the PPC risk as well.
Right.
And logistic, if something goes wrong, that's very important. And when you start it, please start off also looking at direct relationship with 3PLs and
Mm.
logistic people. Your black book of factory should be as much. The numbers should be as much as the same as you have numbers in people you know in logistics in China and 3PLs out of China, because
Mm,
that's when you know you can maneuver certain things. The supply chain issue in Shanghai did not affect us because we knew people in down south and north, and
yeah,
my factories knew people as well. So for
yeah,
each factory you have, you should have four more factories helping you. So the
that's
start, I
awesome.
always say, know your why, think big smartly, learning curve. You have to learn quickly and just do it, and know who you know, and make sure you do your keyword research very well. Your numbers have to be right, and make sure you have direct relationship, and those relationship will mitigate risk. And also make sure your idea is unique, because everyone thinks they have a unique idea. They don't. Check the
Yeah,
competition. It sounds stupid, but seriously, people come up to me saying this idea is unique, but all you have to do is Google Amazon. It is not unique. Your head thinks is unique. Your friends and family tell you unique, but you're not that special. I'm sorry. But
yeah,
go and look at the actual logic and data to see if you're special. So that's how I say, start, but please start, because then you pull the trigger, then you direct the bullet, as I say to people.
yeah.
But you got to
I
pull
love.
the trigger first.
Yeah, I love that you keep bringing to the table relationships. I think for sure most of the people that had issues with the supply chain is people that they just saw the suppliers as a transaction point and that's it. They were not talking to them on a daily basis or having a relationships, or didn't have a physical presence going directly to China as you have done in the past, and people you already know. And I think when you don't have that relationship, the reality is that when things get very bad, like it was happening in the last couple of months, they're gonna prioritize their friends. They're gonna prioritize the close network. So people that just doesn't have that relationship, I think for sure is where it can completely destroy your business during these
No,
scenarios, right?
the problem, Vinny, is I see people, right? That, I can come here. I'm no expert. I can do your, PPC, per click. I can talk about ranking. I can talk about
Mm,
category. I can talk about all these numbers, right? Maybe I'm no expert, but what people don't talk about e-commerce, and what I've seen in any industry I've transitioned into, is when there's a risk, when there's a problem, the first thing I'm doing is emailing someone, phoning
right.
someone, or contacting someone. Maybe it's a mentor, a guru, or a lawyer, or accountant, or a supply chain person, or a banker. But it's all relationships, and anyone that can mitigate the risk. The clever people know this might be the risk. These are the people that I go to before the risk of comes about. So it's about mitigating the risk and knowing who can go you can go to before it comes. So that's where relationships are important, and
Yeah,
people just
100
don't get it.
100%. I love that 100%. Awesome. So yeah, I think that first phase is super important, and I think now we can start transitioning into the second part, which is also
Which is,
super important, which I believe is the cash flow, right?
yeah,
If I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I give a lot of I give single lectures to CEOs and companies on cash flow,
Yeah,
particularly smaller ones developing, because we live in a very great Western world. We have freedoms, but everyone can start a business, right? But the number one thing everyone gets stuck on is cash flow. Yeah, no matter
100%.
where you
Mm,
come from, no matter who you know, it's the cash
mm,
flow, how you manage cash flow. So with Amazon business, from personal experience, look, it also is very hard because you get bi-monthly payments, right? So
yeah,
that's
that's
very
right.
hard. You, as I say to people, keep it in the game so you can play the game. If you don't have enough in the game, you can't play the game. So don't spend it on yourself or anything else. Don't spend it straight away on the product research. I just talked to an expert, and I talked to her about the business, a great business, but they went out and spent quickly and kind of spread them thin. So they got several products that might be great, but they didn't concentrate on cash flow. So cash
Mm,
flow is king, and cash is king, and if you keep it in the game. One thing I tell people, I have to mitigate it straight off the bat, is people are obsessed with PPC, the right ones, with your pay cost per click. Please don't. I hate that. It's a pet kind of peeve for me. I look at cost per acquisition. Look
that's
at
right.
CPA, please, people. If you look at CPC, you're with the market trend. If you look at CPA, you can actually predict it and say, you know what, this is too many clicks. This is cutting into our margin. It's going this way. It's going that way. We seriously need to do something about it, because they can have 5 clicks and no sales.
Yeah,
So monitor it very seriously. Try to get your CPA number, and then you realize that, oh shit, where's the money going, right?
Yeah,
In terms of cash flow, I use daily, weekly, and allowances. Some company allow you to give daily, weekly allowances. So if you're stuck and you're really new, some companies can allow you to have the daily percentage 70% upwards of your
hmm,
daily Amazon revenue. So you're getting money daily or weekly. That will help
that's right.
you keep cash flow going in. I'm a master at leveraging financing. So inventory, invoice financing, equipment financing, bank debt financing. So use whoever you know, whatever you know, to leverage certain aspect to get other people's money, OPM, and use it towards your advantage. You're not being nasty, you're not being savvy. It's called business, right? So
That's
what
right.
you do is, if you're a newbie, as I tell people, I think it's Tony Robbins who say it's not the greatest thing is not about the lack of resources, but you got to be resourceful.
That's
So
right.
being resourceful is very important. So if you're a newbie, you don't have any experience, you say, hey, Vinny, hey, Pradeep, do you know someone big or someone media? Say, you know what? I'm working with this guy. Here's what his trade history is. Here's what all his invoices is. Hey, China factory, this is kind of volumes I'll do. Can you help me? Can you give me a 30%, 40% upfront and the rest line of credit? They're like, who are you? Not who I am. This is the guy I'm working with. This is who he is. So use
That's
that, right? If you can't, then what you do is get a bit of trading history, then go to an invoice financer, go to your local governments or national governments in any country. We try to help. Here's my invoice. Here's my PO. This is what I need. Give me the money. Use it to buy your stock. Come in, right?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you're doing, I tell people, if you're doing 50,000 more in USD in China, there is no way you should not be paying 100% upfront. You should be paying a bit less and negotiating your volume and the money you're sending in to actually get discount. So or a line of credit. So invoice financing, inventory financing is very important, and also one thing people don't know is Chinese factories, other factories also want you to give some kind of money up front to change your molds or equipment. I call this
that's
equipment
right.
financing. I
Yeah,
use that in pharma a lot. So if you give some money from your profit, say, hey, make a new mold for me. Hey, make a new product. Hey, if you patent this, you can get exclusive rights in China, but I get the rest of the world. And if I give you this equipment financing, you need to give me severe discounts on my kind of product, right? So
that's
then
right.
you make that cash flow, you mitigate the risk. So you say, oh, if something goes wrong, I know I have exclusivity in this place, right? So you
Yeah,
find ways to save money and also make cash flow come in, right?
that's
And
great.
if you have other businesses, other assets, try to leverage that with the bank. Don't put it on the risk. Say, look, this is my PO invoice. This is what we
Hmm.
place in front of you, right? And I got these assets or I got this inventory, I got this here. This is not going to be a security, but this is an example of what I can liquidate to pay this debt. Can you pay this invoice down? And it's up to you to convince the bank or banker or line of credit facilitator saying this guy is, or this girl is better to give this money because they got this asset on the side. Use your already existing inventory if you don't want to put your house on sale or anything, which is
Yeah,
use the
yeah, for
existing
sure.
inventory as a asset or liability. So then you can have that cyclical turning. So that's one
That
way to improve cash flow.
yeah,
So that's
and I
very
think
important. So,
yeah, and I love all those strategies, and I think I mean we all know the excuse of saying I cannot scale because of cash flow nowadays is not anymore valid because I'm pretty sure that you, as me, on a daily basis get reached out by financial institutions that they specialize on provide deploying capital for Amazon businesses. So I'm pretty sure that if you mix that those companies with everything that you just explained, is cash flow shouldn't be an issue in 2022, right?
no, it shouldn't. And people are raising money just to be e-commerce banks, right, or
That's
providers
right.
of. So that is not a problem. What is needed is for the person to we touch on this, expand wisely.
That's right.
So you have the start, then you deal with the cash flow. The
Yeah.
third, I always say, is the fight, is the defense. How you defend your
Mm-hmm.
business against competition.
Interesting. Okay.
So with Amazon itself, Winnie, I talk about certain things. Obviously, you have ranking, you have
Yeah,
keywords and badges you need to do. Your listing SEO has to be on point, and you got to deal with black hats, right?
that's right. Mm-hmm.
There is no way I believe obviously, I think ranking, listing, keyword, and badges. I think people don't understand that your SEO has to be sometimes weekly or monthly adjustments. You can't just copy and paste something in and just let it go, right? You got to
Yeah,
be
for sure.
active. You got to look at your whatever you use, Jungle Sky, Helium, whatever you use, merchant words, whatever. So your
Mm,
SEO is on point and changing all the time. Your keywords are changing all the time, and you got to look at your competitors' listing to see what their title is and how that's changing as well. So that's very important. Now, one thing I'm very big on is obviously, come on, trademark and brand registry is very important.
that's key. Yeah.
Yeah, but I tell people that's not the only key. You need to make sure your IP is registered across the world. Your IP
Mm,
is actually in China if you have any IP, and you protect your domain and your name in China as well, right?
super
And people say,
important.
"Oh, you know what? You can't do that in China." It doesn't matter. I've been in China, lived in China. It's actually strict rules. People are not. People actually follow certain rules, particularly if you have your .cn, .hk. I forgot Taiwan and Hong Kong
Yeah.
one. If you register those domains in your company name, and also you get the good lawyers to do it and your trademark, that will stand somewhat, right? And you need to have that defensibility in the Far East and across the world. And that's very important. And I'm sorry, black hats will come, people will come if you're not
Yeah.
very niche area. You can't stop it. You got to deal with it. I think that's where I always say you need the best consultants, gurus, and lawyers. You know, if I go into a new field or new adventure, first thing I do is look at staff and look at who the gurus are and who the best lawyers and accountants are, because I know I can leverage that. That's direct relationships again, and they will help me
Yeah.
mitigate risk. So those are the important people, and
Awesome.
good field specific lawyers are very important for that defensibility. So you should have one for patent, you should have one for consulting, and you should have one for risk. You might have different ones for different fields. You should have one for suspension, maybe. So
Yeah.
different people will have different abilities. So that's important as well. And the final thing I say is you got to email, phone, and harass Amazon. That call me now. You got to harass them, and you got to be on their case. And
Yeah.
sometimes it does take you paying money to a top consultant to get to the higher ranks of Amazon, to get that direct email to that VP of that particular category to look at your issues. That's what
Yeah.
it takes.
Yeah, I totally agree that the maintenance and the first step is super important because I feel sometimes people do the first steps right, like the cash flow, the scale, and everything. But once they get there, they get comfortable. They don't check their PPC as often. They don't check their listings, as you mentioned. They don't check the trademarks that is done globally. And then when the competition comes, when the hijackers come, that's where your risk mitigation wasn't done, and your business go downwards, right?
Remember, it comes down to who you know. When you're
Yeah,
in deep trouble, right, you can't be wasting time thinking about who you can phone. You should have those people on Rolodex already, and
yeah.
you should go within 1 minute to 2 minutes. If you've done
You
the
get a
risk,
solution.
if
Yeah,
you've done the networking, even if you don't know, you should know someone who knows. So
that's right.
hey, Winnie, what's up? Who can I call? Who can I go to? So that's
That's the proper
important.
way. Love that. Love that. Awesome. So we covered already the first one, which is the scale, the cash flow, the maintenance and protection. Which one do you think are other points people should take in consideration
Yeah, the
when
next
it
one
comes
after
to?
defense and people, I talk about this a lot in different fields and CEOs,
Mhm.
is how you expand.
Mm,
Expansion is a massive risk, right? And I think expansion should be quick, manageable, but has to be the right direction, right?
yeah.
You know, I, I like to point to the Second World War. Hitler could have won that war, but he's a
Mm,
bit too greedy. He went left and right, and he went into Russia. There's land upon land, and his timing was bad. It's winter, so that expansion, there was no risk mitigation there. There's
for
false
sure.
advice and knowledge, right? So the thing is, in war, in business, the same thing. It's about where to expand, which direction, and how to respond. And one thing I like to talk about is Jeff Bezos. He talked about not ROI, he talked about ROR,
Mm,
return on risk. So if you're taking a risk,
like
what's
that.
the return? It's not
Mm,
return on investment, because sometimes it's not your investment, it's actually a risk.
that's
So
right.
it's a return of risk. So what I say is that you have to experiment wisely in your head first. One of the keys that stood me out is I used to take so much time. hours upon hours doing my PhD to look at the experiment, all the variables and all the resources I can collect. I wanted to execute it once and that's it. Where everyone else will be executing many times, I executed once, collected the data, and I knew I had everything resources from the experiments in place, right? So I can go again and again and again.
Mm,
So it's about how you can experiment wisely in your head and know which direction. So that comes down to your research, maybe on Helium 10, Jungle Scout, whatever. See what
right.
direction what market is doing, what's your competition, and play that book out and say, okay, if I go to Europe, if I go to Australia, if I go to Japan, if I go to where, who do I know? Which 3PL can I use? What's your PPC? What's your cost per acquisition? What's the market? Should I just go UK and Germany? Shall I go
Yeah,
France or Spain? And
yeah,
then go slow and experiment wisely. If you launch, you got to spend on launch, so cash is king. So that's very
100%.
important. One thing I realized, I don't know if you actually help me on this when you if you the same thoughts. I actually helped me going aggressively, stocking up in Q2, going aggressively in Q3. But so by Q3 at the end, I'm already ranking and my inventory capacity is higher. So
That's
Q4
right.
is easier. So
That's
I
right.
go stock up in Q2. Q3 is the sales on a new launch, and Q4 I am
Yeah,
actually
we do something similar. Yeah, I
so
think that's a super good strategy. And sorry for interrupting. I think I wanted to just make emphasis on the expansion to launch to multiple marketplaces. And the reason why I think it's such an important thing to mention right now is I see this mistake on a daily basis. We have managed so many brands that they come to us, and the number one mistake they did that basically brought the business to a lower performance overall is that they started selling across all the Amazon marketplaces. They sent inventory all across the globe. They spent PPC on all the countries. It became a mess. They didn't have a strategy. So I love that you're pointing that out because I think
yeah.
it's something people is doing often and is killing their business. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and one thing. Sorry, I'm sometimes brought into situations, and even in Amazon business, one thing I do very well, and many don't, is cut. I like to cut departments, sack people. I like to cut, clean out things, not in a mean way because it's
Yeah.
unnecessary baggage, right?
Yeah.
And people don't understand because we go to so many conferences and there's great providers, there's great logistics, there's great PPC people, and they say expand, expand, expand.
Mm,
But sometimes you got to cut products, you got to
that's right.
cut marketplaces. So when we're doing toys, I cut the whole toys out in Europe, consider America, and then when we're doing pet supplies, cut everything out just the US market. So because there's only so much attention and cash flow you can give to one market,
And
so
part of
you
that.
really need to cut. And it doesn't mean you have best friends with VAs and others. That doesn't mean that you want to show numbers. Sometimes you got to cut your staff down as well. And
That's right.
expansion is about cutting as well, not just expanding, because cutting means you can focus and expand in one direction. So
Love
your
that.
VA can be your best friend, but there's no friends in business, my friend. So cut
Yeah.
them down. Stop using too many people and stop hiring PhDs and MBAs. You're not a
Focus on
multi.
efficiency. Focus on an efficiency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and get the right people to get the right talent. So in this expansion stage, I say, look at your logistics, air and ocean shipping, combine them to experiment wisely. Look at your numbers, which markets. Make sure you have cash to launch and spend on launch if you're going to go hard in one marketplace. Cut down ASINs and marketplaces if you have to. And if you can't beat some certain competitors, try to buy them out if you're big enough.
I like that. I like that. Awesome. Awesome strategy. So
Sometimes to get revenue, you have to buy revenue.
yeah, and we see huge companies doing that on a daily basis. So it's part of the business, 100%. Awesome. So I think is so we already covered them. Is scale, cash flow, maintenance and defense, then expansion. Is there anything else you think is key when it comes to risk mitigation as a last point?
Yeah, so if you look at the lifelong science of a company, I done it in science, in pharma, and so forth. The last bit is exit. Now,
Hmm.
honestly, I haven't done any exits in e-commerce, but I've done exit in my life a lot, and I brought companies, sold companies, and lean companies out. I think it comes down to many things. By the way, I hate to say it to people, I think the golden age of selling a company is gone. The good deals you get in e-commerce are gone. People say,
For sure.
if you got a good brand, you can get good multiples. Those multiples will never be as great as before.
Yeah.
Maybe it will come back, maybe, but those multiples will not be great. So
Yeah.
you need to sell on the up. People don't understand. You got to sell in this curve, not in this curve. People say, I'll go here, then I sell. I go here. No, sell as it going up, because then you entice more people, right?
That's
Uh,
right.
and this is when I go into a deal. I love making deals. I love going to the
I know. I know.
I like going in there. I look at certain things, the competence of who's buying and selling, who's across the table, how clever are they, and how their team, right? What's their weakness? What's their portfolio? What if you're selling to aggregator? What's their portfolio? Who are they? What do they want? Have they sacked people? How much money have they raised in seed rounding? Are they going down? Are they going up compared to competitors? What categories are doing? Who's the head of investments? Do they have investment or acquisition history? Who's the head of acquisition? Sorry, what do they do? Take your emotions out. Make sure you have short, medium, and long term goals in your head. Make sure you have goals you set for this deal, not X amount of money. What's the least amount of money you get? What's the maximum? And work within that. Take your emotions out of it. I keep telling the people,
That's
and
so
let
important. Emotions. Yeah.
if you have several
100%.
competitors fighting for your business, let them fight for it, right? And look at world events and demands. E-commerce is a business. You're a CEO of a business. You got to read the right news, the right world events. You got to be on point. If there's something happening, you should know about it in different fields, how the market is fluctuating, because that will have an impact on VCs, banks, debts, aggregators, and your business. So go know your world demand and get out at the right time and know your market. And also, you got to be savvy. Sometimes if you're going down, you got to sell
Yeah.
and sell quickly and make the money up and launch again or go somewhere else. And don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah, 100% on board. I think it was important that you mentioned the reality of the market right now, because I think a lot of people was expecting the market to keep going up, but the reality is multiples are going down again. We saw everything that's happening with aggregators, Amazon itself. So yeah, it's interesting what is going to happen in the next 12 months. I think something we're going to see a huge movement in the e-commerce
Yeah,
space
I
for
think it's
sure.
going to be utter carnage. I keep telling people.
Yeah,
And also,
big things
please
are coming.
don't go to a negotiator saying the potential of a brand. I talk to all the brokers, M&A. They're like, the potential of this brand. What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
numbers, what the last 6 months, I don't care. What the numbers are in the last 3 months, what's going on. Potential is not expanding to other marketplaces, expanding to Walmart. That's just bullet points people have copied and pasted from every report.
Easy,
Yeah, that's
easy
potential
points.
for every
Yeah,
company,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't care what your brand is not on Walmart, but your numbers have to speak true. And also, I tell people any field, particularly in products in science, whatnot, everything has a plateau, right? You can
Mm,
never scale, 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 scale. You got to be happy saying, okay, this is the plateau. I'm going to maintain revenue here, maybe rank it 3 to 8 or 1 to 10, whatever. Okay, we're going to keep the revenue, we're going to keep profit, lean it out, and go again. Go again
mm.
meaning another product launch or another acquisition. But sometimes you just cannot go this way. And
It's
if
not
you think
reality.
you
Yeah.
can go this way, it's not real. And if you think you plateau, sell. If you want to grow again, you acquire again or you launch again. If you don't want to do it, sell on the up. So that's
Awesome.
very important. And some people can be fooled by potential, but if you're buying on the other side, don't be fooled by potential, because the potential is just bullet points copied and pasted from every.
Thank you, Pradeep. I mean, amazing advice. That's why I thought it was such a key thing to have you on the podcast, because you share so much knowledge. And I like the fact that you use your expertise from other industries and bring it into the Amazon space, because a lot of people in the Amazon space that they call themselves gurus, sometimes they become a tunnel vision because they just know Amazon and they don't know the reality side of Amazon. And I
Or
think when
it's not
you
just
you
Amazon.
understand,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's any field. Once you're in it, you get influenced by the data around you, people
that's
around
right.
you, and you get tunnel vision,
You need
right?
to be open minded. You need to understand what is happening also side of Amazon, because just as you explained, it affects your business. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Okay.
It's been a pleasure, my friend. Well, maybe we can pick up one topic and then go hard again on this one
Yeah.
particular topic or
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean, for sure, I'm gonna have you many more times. I mean, we have so many topics that we've been discussing also in person that we need to bring to our audience. So definitely looking forward to it. But for now, I want to give you my thanks for being here. It's a pleasure. I'm pretty sure our audience is going to enjoy today's topic. Yeah, before we go, can you briefly share with the audience where can people can find you if they want to reach out to you, they want to invite you for a coffee, a beer, whatever, how they can find you, Pradeep?
Yeah, it's just Pradeep Kumar Sacitharan. I go by my Instagram is PK Sacitharan. Type on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever my name you see it, I'll come up and just I always say my motto is help and serve. So I'm here to help and serve. Like on a routine basis, I'm just giving free advice around talking to people.
Yeah,
That's what I love doing.
I
If
love
I
it.
can open someone's possibility and eyes to limits and the limitation and taking risk, I've done my job. I'm very happy.
Awesome, awesome,
So yeah, reach out to me, guys.
great. So
Go
yeah,
hard,
thank
go
you.
fast.
Yeah, thank you, man. So let's keep in touch, okay? Thank you very much for being here.